dimensions. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Hochradel, and we are going to be doing some 3D today in Adobe Illustrator for your challenge. As a quick disclaimer, if there is a hard cut in this video, if I disappear for a second, I am having some tech difficulties, but I will be back as soon as it cuts out. It'll jump right back in, I promise. So let's go ahead and hop in. If you want to be a part of our challenge today, you can download the source file down in the description. Today, there's not a lot in there. It is a little bit open because we are going to be building from scratch. I think it's more fun to build from scratch and you get to learn a little bit more. So let's go ahead and hop into our file. You're going to find that in the description down below, and it will look like this right there. So right here we have our challenge, and today that is flat versus 3D. That's why we're in the 3D inflatable icons. So we're going to be using a bunch of 3D techniques today. I know that it says inflate, but we're actually going to explore Revolve and Extrude as well. We also are going to be doing some stuff with materials. So if you haven't used those yet, today is your day for 3 dimensions. So let's go ahead and hop in here and get started. The first thing that I want to do is we are going to create a flat icon, right? And we're going to start basic, and we are going to create the smiley face emoji. It's just the easiest one to do. So let's do the smiley face emoji. Actually, let's do a heart first. Let's do a heart emoji first. I think that might be a little bit easier. So the way that I like to create hearts is a little bit different. I actually saw this on Twitter at one point. And what I do to create hearts is I will create a square. So I'll grab my rectangle tool. I'll click and drag holding shift, and then I'll rotate it 45 degrees, right? So now we have a nice diamond. I will use my direct selection tool right there, and I will delete the top point right here. So just hitting delete. From there, I will change it over to a stroke by hitting Shift X or changing the stroke right over here. And then I will open up my stroke panel. And here's how I create my heart is I will go ahead and increase the size of this until it overlaps. Now, a heart always has, right, a little rounded edge on it. Great. All I need to do is change to a rounded cap and then a rounded corner. And as this continues to get larger and larger, boom, we have a perfect heart. And maybe I do want a little point at the bottom. When I zoom out here, you can see, boom, I have made a perfect heart icon. This is the way that I like to do it. Giant stroke on a perfect angle. So we're gonna hit Object, Expand, and then we hit OK, and boom, we have a perfect heart. That's the way to make a heart. So we're going to use that as our icon for now. I do have somebody in our live chat that's saying hi. Hello, April Marks. Nice to see you. If you're watching on YouTube and watching the replay, thanks for watching. Say hi in the comments down below. But there is a live show that happens every single day at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time at behance.net/Adobe Live. Join us sometime. All right, so let's go ahead and let's create a heart icon, right? All right, so we created the heart icon with the stroke. We're gonna put a nice kind of rich pink on this, and we're done with the first part of our challenge. We did it. Let's go ahead and just cross off flat icon is done. We did it. All right, so now let's move on to creating this in 3D. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can create this in 3D. I'm gonna make a copy of it by just clicking Shift and Alt or Option, and we'll zoom in right here. So I'm going to open up my 3D panel. So we're going to go to Window and then 3D and Materials. This is a semi-recent update to Illustrator. It's a new panel that will have a lot of great information for you and some tools that we can use together. Someone in our live chat is asking, when is it necessary to use expand? So I'm going to do this just so we can see. And yes, I love to answer things live. I know that we have a lot to do today, but I want to answer your questions. So right now, this is just a stroke, right? So it is a very thick stroke that we have on this line. If I go into my outlines mode, hitting Control Y, you can see that it is just a very simple outline there, right? And so if I expand it, what it's going to do is it will make it so that the stroke is now a shape. So right now it's a stroke. If I go to Object, Expand, and then hit OK, now it is a shape. And if I come back to my outline mode, you see that it is now a full shape instead of just the stroke. So expanding makes it so that it is a full shape instead of just an effect on a line. All right, so let's get our pink back here. copy of it next to it. There we go. And now we're going to play around with these 3D materials. And what's fun is we can kind of click around and see what happens. But what we're going to do today is we are talking about Inflate. So I'm going to click on Inflate right here. And it's just like, again, using a pump. We're sticking a pump in and then just pumping that up, and it will inflate from the center of the object. You can see that the edges are a little bit rounded, and that's because it's inflating from the center of this object. Now, if we want to change the depth, we can inflate it more, which we can't see from the angle right now, or we can change the volume so that there's a little bit less, right? So we can just get a little bit of inflation, or we can go all the way up and make it fully 3D, which is, I think, what we want today. So that looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and rotate this. So coming over to our selection tool, if we hover in the middle, we can go to rotate freeform, and you see, oh, it's just like a candy, right? We don't have the other side of it. It is just a heart. So what I want to do is I actually want to have this be two-sided. And all I need to do is click on inflate both sides. And now it has made a heart, right? This looks like a beauty blender. So we've made our little heart, but to me, it's a little too, it's a little too wide. So I'm going to take the volume down, and then we'll be able to see, there we go. Now it's feeling more like a puck kind of shape. And that's what I want. I want it to have a little bit less of a kind of roundness to it. So we've got a nice little heart looking good. We have a custom rotation, and you can see here, if I wanted to, I could change the depth so that it is very, very wide. I don't want it to do that, but the inflate both sides is a new feature that as we click and drag around, you can see that it is in fact inflating both sides. So I'm going to make this so that it's just front. That looks good to me. And I can change the lighting if I wanted to. I could come here and do diffuse lighting, which means it's going to hit in the middle or top left. I think that that looks good for the 3D. So that's the difference right there, very quickly, between flat icon and an inflated icon. Now, we're going to try something completely different, and we are going to make a smiley face emoji. So I'm just going to do that really quick using our ellipse tool and kind of bringing this in here and creating that smiling emoji. I'm going to use my stock colors and then make a bunch of different ellipses. Ellipses L is the hotkey. With those eyes and then a nice little smile. So go there, and then we'll do a little half circle. And I'm just going to do that by copy and pasting this circle. And then, you guessed it, cutting it in half right there. And let's just do a stroke on here. So another example, we're going to put a black stroke on here that is fairly thick. Right there. I'm going to scale that in a little bit. And from there, we want this to be a shape. So we just go to Object and Expand. Hit OK, and now it's expanded. So if I want to round the corners a little bit, let's do that to just give it some extra fun. So we have this fun little smiley face. I think it's looking good. I don't think the smiley face has a nose, but maybe we want to put a nose on here. We're getting close to Halloween at the time of the stream. Getting a little spooky. So we're going to put a nice little fun nose, and maybe this is kind of a jack-o'-lantern look. Oh, maybe we're going to create a jack-o'-lantern. If we have time, we'll create a 3D jack-o'-lantern. So we have all of our shapes here, and now what I'm going to do is we have our flat icon. Looks great. It actually looks okay. I don't like this color yellow, so I'm going to take it to more of an orange just because it's bugging me. Oh, that's even worse. Oh boy, we don't have time to get stuck here. I want like a golden. That's even worse. All right. Oh boy. Oh no. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have our smiley face looking good. Let's go ahead and make it into 3D. So what's cool is what we can do is just click really quickly on Inflate and watch what it does. It has already made that a nice smiley face for us. Now you can't tell because it is full black, but these are actually inflated. So I'm gonna take them just to a nice gray, a little bit of a lighter gray. If we zoom in here, you can see that there is some inflation happening right there. So let's go ahead and change these to a little bit lighter. There we go. And now we have some really good dimension on those eyes. So that looks good, but these are all individual shapes. So if I move this, it is going to move it a little bit oddly, right? It's moving each of them individually. So that's a little bit crazy. What I want to do is I want to make it so that the circle is a sphere and that the face is projected onto that sphere. So something else that we can do if we want to really add some extra depth to our face is we can come in here and grab our shapes. I'm going to copy, Control C, and then paste, edit, paste in place. There it is. And then we will hit Control 8 to make a compound path. From there, we will select the two, and then we will subtract. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a really fun inflate kind of around those missing areas. And I love doing this to create kind of icons that have a little bit extra to them. What we can do is we're going to take the depth up, and maybe this volume is going to go down. You'll see that we get a lot less volume, but it's going to give us that nice, fun kind of 3D effect. So from there, maybe we want to change the lighting. Let's do kind of a top left, top right. I think the intensity is a little too much, so let's take the intensity down. There we go. Make it a little bit softer. There we go. So we've created a little bit more of a kind of bubble look. Ooh, those are very intense colors. Let's do a nice little green there. Maybe an orange. Yay! So you can do that and add a nice little bubble look to existing shapes. If you're working with simple shapes, if you're working with icons, you can create that using the Inflate tool. Okay, so that's how you do the Inflate tool. We are going to show you how to do this probably the right way. And what I like to do is I like to create a full 3D object and then map the face onto it. What we can do is we are going to grab just this circle in the background, and we're actually going to delete one of these sides. So check this out. We can hit A, which is the direct selection tool, and we are going to delete this anchor point on this side. We're going to use one of the 3D materials that we haven't used yet, and that is Revolve. So we are going to do Revolve. And what that does is it's going to create this weird cylinder. We don't want that because right now it is spinning this around from the left edge. We want it to spin from the right edge, which is flat, which will make, that's right, a perfect sphere. So we've made this perfect sphere and it looks great, but we want to put this face onto the sphere. So all I need to do is grab this face. We're going to select all those objects, Control G, to group it, and then we click and drag this into the 3D panel. So to create that 3D icon, we're going to remove this face, we're going to select our 3D object, and then just click on this graphic. And now, check it out. It has mapped that face onto our object. Really fun. If you want to change it, you can select the graphic here, and we can actually move it around. It looks like Jack from Jack in the Box. So you can actually move it around pretty easily to make any kind of augmentations that you need. Now, I do want this to look like Jack. I told you it might happen. So let's hop back in. What we were doing is we were creating Jack from Jack in the Box. So let's go ahead and hop back in there. All right, so we are creating Jack from Jack in the Box right here. I'm going to make it a nice white, and then we can actually put that little hat on top. And thinking about how the hat works, I think that I want to do a shape that maybe is like this, and then I'll scale these in just a little bit to kind of create this nice little hat. And then we use that same tool that we use, which is Revolve, and we are going to revolve from the right edge to create the beginning of this little hat. So let's go ahead and pull this down, and then I want to create kind of a cone shape. That is going to be a little bit taller. So I'm going to create a polygon, and this will just be a triangle right there. And I'm going to put that right here, and again, revolve it right there. So let's see here. Let's do the right edge, see if that comes to a point. Oh, it'll be the same. All right, so let's put that right there. Let's stack this in there. All right. So that looks good. We're going to make both of these blue because I think his hat is blue. We're going to group them, and then I'm just going to put a little hat up here. There we go. 3D shapes. Magic. All right, so let's go ahead and move this around. So right now, this is in fact mapped onto the face. So we can click and drag to actually move the face around in 3D. So it is a full 3D shape if we were working with that object right here. Now, I believe that these are multiple 3D shapes, and I don't think that you can move them all together. I'm pretty sure that they will move all independently. let me confirm that. But the hack that you can kind of do is you can set them all to the same angle. So we can do off axis front for all of these, and it will set them to the same angle. So we won't have to really worry about any kind of things getting weird. So maybe this one we want off axis right. He's going to turn to the right. And because this hat actually kind of doesn't really matter how it's going, we can pretty easily just move things around and make sure that it's always on top. So you can do 3D that way. Now there's another way that we can do 3D and add some spice to our icons, and that is by using materials. So we have our heart icon here. We know that it is 3D. It is two-sided. It is looking plump. What we can do is we can add in maybe some fire. Maybe we want to add in something that gives us an extra little oomph, gives it some sazzle, some zazz. So we're going to go to materials right here, and instead of being in the graphics panel, we're going to click on materials. Now I have a bunch of materials that are loaded in here. My favorite one being the cheese. Let me go ahead and just scale this down so that you all can actually see what this looks like. Cheese hearts. So if you scroll around, you can see we've got a great cheese texture, and we made a cheese heart. So look at that. There's a bunch of settings that you can play around with, but you can add in whatever effects that you want. If you want to get more effects, you can actually find more from the community. Our friends in the community, floating in the ether community, have made some awesome effects for us. There is banana skin, which I think that we have to make a banana skin heart. So I'm just going to click on download right here, and it will put that into my downloads. So you want to get an S bar file. So if you come back here, you can actually add these in by clicking on plus, add materials, and then in that folder that I just grabbed, I can come in here, grab the banana skin, open it up, and it should give me a loading of the banana skin. Let me see where it went. Banana. So all you need to do is click right there, and boom, there is the banana skin. Now there's almost always additional options which are floating down here at the bottom. So you can change the resolution if you want it to be really, really clear, or you can increase the repeat. So that's gonna give us a really cool texture. And let's say that we wanna change the colors. So again, all of these usually have additional options for us. And so we really want to add in a little bit of extra on our heart, right? We want it to be very pink, very fun, and very kind of loving. And so instead of doing dark brown, let's do maybe a red, right? Give it some nice pop. Look at that. So we've got some nice texture on here, some nice pop, and the rotation we could also change if we wanted this to kind of follow the rotation of that heart. It would give us some really cool rotation. So I actually want this to be a little bit bigger. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and rotate it around, and you can see that it has that material mapped on, and the lighting looks really good. So I am going to do it off axis front just so we see kind of that heart. And now you can see the full evolution of 1, 2, and heart number 3. What's great about this is we can actually turn on a super high fidelity render. We can also add a shadow. So if we wanted to, let's go in here and let's go ahead and add a shadow. So coming in, we can go to lighting, and then we are going to turn on our shadows, and it will give us a nice soft shadow right there. So I can render this with a ray trace, which I'm going to do. It might get a little bit wild. You also can render as a vector if you like. So we're going to ray trace. I'm going to turn it on high. Cross your fingers, everybody. We're going to render. I'll probably get jumpy for just a second. And while we render that, it's thinking about it. I can hear my computer whizzing up, but it is going to give us such a clear and precise render of this heart. There we go. So look at this, as we zoom in here, it is velvety smooth, right? And then our shadow is very soft, looking good. And this is a really good full 3D render, right? I love this. So something else that we can do, one more effect that we are going to use with our heart is we are going to use the extrude. So extrude is a way to just give a little bit of dimension. And this is actually something that I would use if you're adding, if you're making an icon that you want to kind of feel interactive, feel like a button. You can use this extrude tool, and you can do it in the off axis, right? These are technically the same shape. right there, exactly the same shape, but just with different materials and formats on it. But what we can do is we can turn on a bevel here. And a bevel is going to give us this option to create kind of a layered effect. And we have all kinds of different bevels that we can do. What I like to do is a bevel inside, and that's going to push it down, right? It's going to push it down. And then we can bevel both sides if we wanted to, which is actually going to look a little bit weird. So we're going to bevel outside. And the width we change, you see it can come all the way out to a point, or it can come all the way down to just the edge. So I'm going to put it all the way to a point, but I'm going to pull the height down because I want it to kind of be a geometric look. We can do convex, and that's going to look crazy. Let's go ahead and see what step looks like. Meh. Classic outline. That's pretty cool. So let's do the classic outline right there. And it is only doing one side. Oh, actually, it's doing both sides. I didn't realize that we turned it on. Also, did we accidentally make the Kingdom Hearts logo? I think we did. So you can play around and create this awesome bevel look, and then we can set the rotation again to that off-axis front. And if we wanted to, we can change that lighting. We can do diffuse lighting, which is not going to give us much. We can do lighting from the top left, lighting from the right. I liked the standard the best. And then we also can add shadows. So the shadow is going to make it look like it is kind of up against a wall, which I really like. And we can do below object, and that will make it look like it's floating. So if I want the lighting to still be, let's go ahead and rotate it right there. We want it to look like it's kind of floating, and maybe change the distance down. Actually, that's fine. All right, so we'll increase those, and then we can change the color of this light as well. So let's say we want a nice kind of pink light. We'll hit OK, and that will change the warmth of this light. And what's cool is as we render this, I'm going to ray trace it real quick with 2 minutes left. It will actually pick up some of that color light onto the shape. Pink shape with pink light hitting it. If I change this to a white shape with pink light hitting it, it will look a little bit different. So we're going to do both of those just so you can see. So this is me rendering out a pink object with pink light on it, hitting it. And with the shadows, with everything, it is getting a little jumpy. There we go. All right. Oh, it's rendering these two next to each other and having just a good old time rendering these two next to each other. I've made mistakes with this file, but you'll be able to see. And yes, I picked the high render settings. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. All right. We're not rendering. We're not doing any more high fidelity renders here on these streams. Wait for it. There we go. I picked the high fidelity, y'all. It was an accident. So what you need to do, create an icon. And I want to see your icon in 3 different ways. I am going to delete these because I need the power. So let's do your icon in 3 different ways and drop it in Discord. Discord, bit.ly/AI Discord is the place to be. Make a flat icon, an inflated icon, and then maybe try to map art using that Revolve tool. If you want to, use some substance and make a crazy banana heart like we did. But you can take a screenshot, post that over in the Discord, bit.ly/AI Discord in the challenge feedback tab, and we'll give you some feedback. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Sorry for the tech issues, and thanks for sticking around through it. Hopefully you all learned something and you'll be able to learn more things in the future here on Adobe Live. I'm live every day, behance.net/Adobe Live. 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. I said Adobe Live a whole bunch there. Adobe Live. That's the wrong button.